Hey guys, welcome back to my Bible Study with Julie series where we break down the Bible one story at a time, very simplified, dumbed down, because I know what it's like to not understand the Bible. It is confusing. So it's going to be like a FaceTime chat, like we're on FaceTime, and really just broken down. And I actually had a question for you guys. Do you like how I'm just sitting in front of the camera sharing these Bible stories and kind of explaining them? Or should I start doing it like while I'm cooking, while I'm doing my nails, while I'm scrapbooking or something, so you're like watching me do something while talking? Would that be more entertaining, or do you think that'd be too distracting and you'd rather me just sit in front of the camera? Let me know your thoughts on that. But anyway, if you haven't watched my previous Bible study videos, definitely check those out down below. I will link the playlist for you guys because this probably won't make much sense if you don't watch those first. And yeah, today we're going to talk about Genesis 13 through 17. Let's get right into it. And we have a special guest here hiding in the corner. He just woke up from his nap when I was going to start recording, so he's just going to play over there. In Genesis 13, Abram and his nephew Lot are very wealthy, and back then wealth wasn't about money. It was more about how many animals you had, how much land, how many possessions you had. So they had a lot. And Abram and his nephew Lot were sharing this land, and they're getting all these animals. They have a lot of wealth. And they're like, we can't keep sharing this. We're running out of space. Our workers are arguing with each other because there's not enough space. So Abram steps in and he's like, hey, we're family. Let's not fight about it. You take your part where you want to go. I'll go the other way. Abram could have easily been the one to choose his land first because he's the older one. He's the one God had called on, but he was very generous and let Lot decide first. And Lot looks over, he sees the Jordan Valley and it is super green, well watered, and he's like, that would be perfect for my animals. And the Bible mentions to us that this region includes Sodom, which is a place that people are living in serious wickedness, like lots of negativity, not good. But Lot just looks on the outside. He is not looking deep in the surface. He's just like, it's pretty. Perfect. Let's do it. So Lot goes off and Abram stays where he is in Canaan, and God reassures him. He's like, all the land you can see, this is going to belong to all of your descendants. And Abram decides to build an altar, and an altar is basically a place of worship. Genesis 14 turns into a rescue story. There's this regional war going on, and there's multiple Cains. Lot ends up getting captured, among others. And Abram hears of this. He gathers 318 trained men. They go defeat the Cains. They get Lot. They save the others. On the way back, Abram runs into this person named Melchizedek. Melchizedek is described as the king of Salem and priest of God Most High. And it was actually very uncommon to both be a king and a priest. Melchizedek blesses Abram, and Abram gives Melchizedek a tenth of everything he recovered. And giving a tenth then was kind of recognizing God and honoring him. Abram is offered some of the wealth that was received, but Abram's like, no, I don't want it. I want people to know that my wealth only comes from God. In Genesis 15, God speaks to Abram in a vision and he says, do not be afraid. And Abram's like, how am I not supposed to be afraid? I don't even have a son yet. My servant is going to get all my inheritance because I don't have a son. And he's stressing, and God takes him outside and he's like, you see all those stars? All the stars you can count, that's how many descendants you will have. And Abram decides to trust the Lord, which is very important. God then makes a covenant with Abram, which is basically a promise, and there was a ceremony. This is what they did in the day. There were animals that were cut in half, and normally the two sides would walk between the animals. It's kind of like a promise that like they're not going to break it, I guess. But Abram falls asleep. He falls into a deep sleep, and God's the only one that is there during the ceremony. So basically, the Bible's telling us that it's all relying on the Lord and his promise because Abram didn't follow through. In Genesis 16, waiting kind of turns to impatience. Sarai and Abram still haven't had a child yet. They're getting frustrated. And Sarah comes up with this idea, which is actually pretty normal at the time. And she says, how about you have a child through our servant Hagar? They do this, and Hagar actually ends up getting pregnant, and things get really messy. Abram is looking down on Sarai. Sarai is feeling angry, and she actually mistreats Hagar and scares her away, and Hagar runs into the wilderness. The angel of the Lord finds Hagar in the wilderness and tells her to return, and Hagar is actually overwhelmed because God is noticing her and noticing her situation. She ends up returning, and they have the son. His name is Ishmael, which actually means God hears. And so they're like, okay, Ishmael is the promised son that God had promised Abram. Ishmael was actually born when Abram was 86 years old. Genesis 17 flashes forward about 13 years, and God returns to Abram and he reminds him of the promise, like, I'm going to give you a son, and it's not going to be through Hagar. Sarah's going to have a son. And at this point, Abram's 99, and he's like, yeah, right. He basically laughs. He's like, I don't really think I'm having a son now. What? And God tells him, you're actually gonna name your son Isaac, which means he laughs. Also at this point, God changes Abram's name to Abraham and Sarai's name to Sarah. God also says he'll bless Ishmael and make him into a great nation too, like he told Abraham. So across these chapters, we see Abraham choosing peace over control, Lot choosing what looks best in the moment, what looks best on the outside, and the family trying to rush God's timing. People then and now, they rush, they doubt, they make messy choices, but God remains steady. Next time we'll chat about what happens when God visits Abraham again, and the story of Isaac is getting closer. Thanks again for joining me today, and I do want to say that I recommend reading the Bible before you watch this Bible study video or after, because obviously I'm simplifying it quite a bit so it's easy to understand, and I think it'd be good to read the Bible with this. I'll see you guys next time. Love you.